Thanks, and welcome everyone. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of an introduction to patterns, and I think I can ask you to raise your hand. So let's do that. If you understand something about patterns, or if you've heard of the notion of patterns, can you raise your hand? Let me see how many. Oh my goodness, look at that. Okay, that's great. That's wonderful. Okay, not every, quite a few people know what patterns are about. That's great. So you might have run into patterns in the mid-90s when the Gang of Four book was published in 1995, and it changed forever the way software is developed. It was a book about ideas. It said when we have good ideas, when we know a way to solve a problem that we see over and over again, why don't we learn everything we can about those ideas, and why don't we document them? And then let's give it a name, these ideas. Let's call it something, and that will give us a handle on the idea, a way of talking about the idea. So for instance, the design patterns were ways of talking about design. And in fact, you could say those names, those patterns, created a vocabulary, a language for talking about design. And as soon as the notion of patterns was out, we began to see patterns for design, patterns for testing, patterns for customer interaction. And Mary Lynn Manns and I began collecting ideas, collecting patterns for introducing patterns. We thought if there are ways of solving problems in design, there must be ways of solving problems in introducing ideas, in organizational change. We had great ideas. How do we get those ideas to happen? So our first book came out 10 years ago, was called Fearless Change. It's a collection of patterns, and these are not just ideas that Mary Lynn and I had. These were ideas that were validated looking at cultures around the globe. We also looked at research in social psychology, discovered something that changed my life. That is the notion that if we want people to adopt our ideas, we can't just prepare a set of PowerPoint slides like I've done for you today. That's not convincing at all. We have to understand something about influence, a field of social psychology that I knew absolutely nothing about 20 years ago. It took to write this book. It took us 10 years to validate the notions, the ideas that we discovered. It took us 10 years to put together Fearless Change, and then 10 more years to do the follow-up, which is just recently released. It's called More Fearless Change, and in it are more patterns, obviously, but also insights about the original patterns, things that over the last 10 years we've learned about what works, what we wish we had said. There isn't anything that we've learned that invalidates the original patterns, but we have a lot more information about them. So this is a shameless plug for 2 books and also for a way of looking at the world. These are not just about changing organization, introducing new ideas to your team. These are also patterns that you can use at a personal level. You can use them in your families. You can also use them to make changes in your own life. So that's one of our insights, that the patterns have a very broad appeal at many levels. Jeff Patton, one of my favorite Patterns guys, Agile Guides. You're not here to build software, you're here to change the world. And whether or not you build software, this quote applies to you regardless of what your job is. What we know is that if you don't have a purpose for doing what you do, that you're not going to do it as well, you're not going to be as creative, you're not going to be as productive. You have the notion of purpose, why are you here? When you get excited about an idea and you do want to change the world, most of us are stuck tied to a set of myths. They believe about the way people are, about the way organizations are. And in my presentation today, I'm going to help you, I hope, by addressing some of those myths so that you can go out and change the world. You can go out and make others aware of your ideas. You can go out and influence change in your organizations, change in yourselves. So raise your hands again. How many smart people are attending today? Smart people in the audience. Look at that. Lots and lots of smart people. Okay, wonderful. I'm looking to see the difference between those who are raising their hands and the number of attendees. Come on, I know there are a lot more smart people out there. Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I think you're all smart, aren't you? Yeah, I'll bet. And for smart, you must also be rational. So let's take another poll. How many rational decision makers do we have out there? You're smart, therefore you're rational. That's how you make decisions, isn't it? By logic, cold logic. That's how you make all your decisions, because you're smart. Yeah, absolutely. Question here, define smart. You can define smart any way you want. I say that word, what comes to your mind? And does that include you? Would you call yourself smart? And would you call, yes, absolutely. I have a comment from Michael who said, yeah, it's not always true. We'd like to believe we're rational. But every now and then, in fact, one of the questions I ask of real audiences when I can look out and see faces is to choose somebody who claims to be rational and ask that person, are you married? Was a rational decision? You might agree that, well, there are some areas of our lives where we're not completely rational, although I have known people who decided to get married by making out a decision tree that listed the costs and the benefits, that assigned values, that weighed. And then they decided, yes, this is a good idea. I will get married. I have done that as a logical decision, and I can give you the reasons why. So there are probably some Mr. Spocks among us who are totally rational all the time, although I wonder even about those extremely rational people. I have another comment here. Yes, the head versus the heart, they don't always work together. Yeah, this is a myth. And the reason why it holds us up is that if we believe we're smart, therefore we're rational, but when we talk to all the people we work with all day, well, they're smart as well. And if we believe that they're rational decision makers, so if we want to convince them of our great ideas, if we want to influence them, then we do that with a nice, logical argument. We give them the reasons why our idea is a good one. We show them the costs and the benefits.